refer to our approach as awareness-based systems change. And I would like to summarize for you the 4 foundational principles for awareness-based systems change. So you have a little bit of feeling kind of into the territory we are getting into later kind of in this journey. Number 1, you cannot understand a system unless you change it. Famously, Kurt Lewin kind of claimed that, the founder of action learning and action research. And that's, of course, it means that only by participating in the change initiatives can we get access to the knowledge that matters today, which is why all of you and all of us are really at the front line of surfacing the knowledge that is so critical today that we need in order to address the moment of disruption that we collectively face. Number 2, you cannot change a system unless you transform consciousness. So that one line is summarizing my past 25 years of action research. So more than 20 years summarized in less than 10 words. That's a little bit sobering, but it really boils down, for me as an action researcher, the core experiences I have had over the year, participating in many initiatives directly or studying them and listening kind of to stories of other change makers. And what it really says is, you cannot change a system unless you transform consciousness. It says you cannot change a system unless you transform the mindsets of the people who are enacting these systems. And you can, when you look at this image here, it really means that if you deal with change today, you better address all of these issues here: structures, thoughts, the paradigms of thoughts, and the deeper sources that we are operating on. Just reacting against the symptoms or just tinkering with structure and process will not be good enough, because if you do, the same people will create the same problems just in the context of a new structure. So if that's like number 2, then the real question is how? How do we do that? And that leads us to number 3. You cannot transform consciousness unless you make a system see and sense itself. So I want to emphasize this word here, sense, because in traditional systems thinking, you would say you cannot change a system unless you make a system see itself. But if we, just create models that depict what's broken with the system, and we understand the models, we understand the root issues, we have a problem, right? It's still stuck in our head. We are still enacting, likely, the knowing-doing gap. And that's why we believe the sensing part of this principle is absolutely critical, because it means that the knowing and the knowledge that we need to change a system needs to, yes, include this, very much so, but also include this dimension, include the knowing of the heart, and include the activation of all our senses. And that's what you will see in many of the practices that we invite you to engage in, that they are designed for you to activate all our senses, right? Not just, for example, our visual sense. So that's number 3. So what our work is really focusing on is to build these methods and tools that make a system see and also sense itself. Lastly, number 4, you can't lead systems change unless you sense and actualize the future. Unless you sense and actualize the future that is wanting to emerge. And that really leads to the essence of leadership. If you double click on the English word leadership, it goes back to an Indo-European word root, life, that literally means to step forth, to step from one territory that we know very well, current reality, into another territory that we don't know And that will only come into being if we have the courage to step into the unknown, to cross the abyss, kind of from the first into the second territory. And that's why we believe kind of this deeper process and this deeper journey is really at the heart of the leadership journey in the moment when you deal with disruption. And since we live in the age of disruption, in a decade of transformation, as many people say, many of our colleagues at the UN and other institutions, we believe that these methods and tools are really critical for enabling us as individuals, communities, and organizations addressing these situations.